Dead Man's Hand is a 28mm skirmish game that's offered by Great Escape Games. They've done a really great job on this game system. In fact, it's a skirmish system, but it really gives you the feeling of those Old West movies with people crashing through windows, into a room and getting shot by the person that was in the room. So a lot of fun, a lot of great cinematic feeling to the game. And as you can see here, this is roughly a 3-foot by 4-foot table, which is more than enough game table to play all the scenarios from the core book, and I'm sure any scenarios they'll come out with in the future. As you can see here, there's several buildings I have on the table. What's good here is that these are all pre-painted buildings offered by Foreground, which is a great company offering pre-painted, generally 15 and 28mm buildings for sale. And all you have to do is buy them, put them together, and you're ready to play with them on the game table. So let's take a closer look at some of the buildings and pieces that I have on the table here, so you too can see how you can create a layout similar to this if you want to play Old West skirmish games. Here you can see a selection of the components used to play Dead Man's Hand. First is the rulebook here. It's a very straightforward read. The game system is very easy to learn. We're going to walk through a simple example of gameplay here in a moment. But some of the other things you see on the table here is a selection of accessories, most of these from Foreground. This wagon comes from Foreground, painted in a very loud blue. Of course, you don't have to do that, but you can get this wagon from Foreground. They also released at Foreground an accessory pack that included this nice little trough with a little railing to tie up your horses here, as well as a whole bunch of independent railings for tying up your horses, kind of like a parking lot in the Old West here, as well as some signs. So you have some signs where you can post some posters. What's great here is a lot of the Foreground buildings, which we'll talk about here in a second, they come with printable poster sheets with wanted posters and the likes and things about traveling circuses and that, and you can post all those little pictures on here or on the buildings. It also comes with a handy little signage post here where you can write in your own kind of city names and how far it is to the next town. Foreground also distributes counters for the game. What's really handy is that they give you this 10 centimeter measuring stick, and everything's pretty much in increments of 10 centimeters. You can move 10 centimeters. Generally all the ranges for weapons are in increments of 10 centimeters. So a very handy movement stick. You generally do not need a tape measure to play the game. When you take movement actions, every model gets 3 actions a turn. You can move once, twice, or 3 times, for example, and you can mark using the footsteps here to represent that, which affects shooting if the model gets shot at. As models take hits, you also have hit counters here in 3, 2, and 1 increments. Of course, if you take 4 hits, you're actually killed and out of the game or put out of action. It's possible to run out of ammunition with shotguns, or if you roll a 1 when you're shooting, so you have a little out of ammo marker. So some great markers that are available from Foreground. Again, all pre-painted. They just come like this. You punch them out and you're off and playing. Each gang has its own deck here, so generally the good guys use the red cards and the bad guys use the black cards. And then each gang, if it has to use a half deck, will have a specific suit assigned to it. Here I have Desperados, which is this gang here. This gang is sold by Great Escape Games, as well as the other gangs that are involved with this. I'm just showing you 2 gangs. There's actually 4 gangs released at the moment, and I hear there's 4 new gangs that are in development, 2 that are being unveiled in War Games Illustrated, the January edition, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But essentially you have your decks. What's interesting here is the deck will generally dictate the order of activation of the models on the table, but you can also hold cards in your hand. So every card in each deck has a number of special rules on it that you can use if you're playing them from your hand, and we'll take a look at what some of those are here in a moment. The gangs here, obviously, and then what's really kind of nice about this system is Foreground has released a whole town of buildings, and in fact my whole town is from Foreground, but some really great pre-painted MDF buildings here. The roofs come off, there's internal details, there's a trap door on the roof, for example. The doors open up, there's interior rooms, especially in the sheriff's office. There's actual jail cells and separate rooms. I also mentioned they distribute wanted posters and that, so actually outside of the sheriff's office you have a bunch of posted wanted posters. What's also neat is the buildings are all pretty much in standard base sizes, so there's kind of a large base size and a smaller one. So I could actually put any building of this size on this base, and what I've done here is mounted my buildings to an MDF base, mostly because it looks better on the table, but also because there's a lot of boardwalk pieces that come, and this allows me to kind of glue down the boardwalk pieces to the MDF so that all I need to do is store the building off of it and then just reattach it when I want to play the game. So a great building from foreground here. The decks, we use 2 dice to play the game. The D10 here is generally used for nerves tests. You'll use that when you take fire, and you're going to see if you're going to break and run or stick around. And then the ubiquitous D20 that's used for melee and gunfighting. And like I said, we'll take a look at how the game works here, an example of gameplay here in one moment. So that's kind of a general layout for the components I have here. Really, the only thing that isn't offered by Great Escape Games and Foreground that I have on the table here are these essentially these barrels I have here, which I just mounted to essentially a 50 millimeter round base here. But these are resin barrels that are offered by MicroArt Studio, and what really turned me onto these was the grain detail in the wood is just exceptional. And so that when you paint them up, they look really nice, and it's not very hard to paint them since everything's so raised in terms of detail. It's easy to get the brushwork in there. And so that is my Old West layout components, and of course with the buildings, there's just a lot of different buildings, 2-story, 1-story, sheriff's office. There's some more buildings I know that are planned. I keep hearing rumors of a corner inn that's like 2 stories and on the corner. So I'm really excited about what's coming up for this game, but what's already out there is already superb, and I'm having just a blast playing this. So let's walk through an example of gameplay for Dead Man's Hand. On this side here, we have 2 desperados. They've just come out of the barber shop, and they're facing off against 2 lawmen who have just exited the marshal's office. Each turn starts by players drawing 1 card face up to determine who has initiative. So I have the deck here for the desperados, and I have the deck here for the lawmen. They're going to both draw a card here. The desperados have drawn a queen, whereas the lawmen have drawn an 8. Initiative is used when resolving models that have equivalent initiative cards. And so if I had 2 8s, the lawmen had an 8 and the desperados had an 8, the desperados have initiative, so they would resolve their 8 first. And of course, all of these cards determine the order in which you activate these models. So we've determined who has initiative, it's the desperados, and then we're going to assign these cards to one of our models. So I'm going to assign it to this guy here with the pistol on this side, and then the guy with the pistol on the deck here for the lawman will get the 8 of hearts over here. Once you've done that, every remaining model in your gang will get 1 card face down from your deck. So that's 1 card over here, and 1 card over here. Once all those cards are put out, you flip them up. Now this is the total activation order for all the models on the table. We have a queen over here. It's then going to go over to the lawmen who have an 8 and a 6, and then finish off with a 4 over here on the desperados. Now these cards can also be drawn in your hand, and so each of these gangs has 1 card in their hand. There's special rules on each card that allow you to interrupt the game and benefit you in some way. So the card that's over here on the lawman side isn't very useful at the moment, but the card on the desperados side can be played after all initiative cards have been revealed. And so what it says is sodden by whiskey, so a great theme here. Play after all initiative cards have been revealed. You may swap one of the opposing model's initiative cards for another of the opposing model's initiative cards. And so what they're going to do is the desperados are going to play this card, and they're going to swap their 4 with this 8 over here on the lawman side. If the lawman in their hand had a 4, which is the same value of the special card that's being played, they could use that card to cancel this. They only have an ace, so they can't do that. So I'm going to put this in the discard pile over here, and now the desperados are going to activate both of their models before the lawmen get a chance to go. Not only do they have initiative, but they have the higher cards with a queen, 8, a 6, and a 4. And so when you go to activate a model, we'll start with the queen here, the highest. We'll put that card in the discard pile here. Each model gets 3 actions per turn, and you have to declare what those actions are before you undertake them. Actions are, generally speaking, move, shoot, you can aim, you can recover. Recover allows you to remove hits as they come onto you for each recover action you take, and movement is 10 centimeters, and then shooting and aiming should make sense. Aiming is what you do before you shoot, so you get a benefit to shooting. So I'm going to declare his 3 actions to be move, aim, and shoot. So the first thing he's going to move is 10 centimeters. He's going to get behind these barrels here, and he's going to shoot at the guy with a pistol over here on the lawman side. Since he's moved once, I'm going to put a little foot here to indicate that, and as he gets shot, this will indicate that he's moving, and the guy that's shooting at him will suffer modifiers as a result. As a second action, he's going to aim. It's 10 to 20 centimeters here. which is no modifier for the pistol, but he is aiming, so he'll get a +1 for that. This guy's out in the open, so there's no modifiers for that. So he gets a D20 +1, and he rolls a 10, +1 is 11. Now, on a result of 11 to 14, this guy takes an under fire marker, and so I'll put that out there right now. On a result of 15 to 18, he would take the under fire marker and also have to take a nerve test, which for most models is a 4. For each under fire marker would be a -1 to the die roll, but essentially on a D10 I'd have to roll a 4 or higher, or in this case a 5 or higher, since it would be -1. And if you fail your nerve test, you take an additional under fire marker. The two ways models die in this game is, one is if I roll a 19 or higher, the model would be instantly killed. Or if you take 4 under fire markers, that's also going to be a knockout or a kill on that particular model. He's completed his 3 actions. Next it goes to the 8 over here, which is this Desperado who has a repeating rifle. He's going to come over here and declare that he's going to move, aim, and shoot. So he's going to do the same. He's going to move over here. He's going to get his one little foot indicating he moved once. And then he's going to aim and shoot at the lawman that has a shotgun. A repeating rifle has a range of 40 centimeters for close range. There is no point blank range like there is with a pistol. So I can easily check, and he's well within 20. And so that's no modifier, but he gets his +1 for aiming. So essentially there's no target cover because he's in the open. And so I'm going to roll 1 dice, 1 d20, looking at a +1. So he rolls a 6, +1 is a 7. It's below 11, so there's no result. Both Desperados have gone at this point. So we'll go over to the 6 that's on the lawman that has the shotgun. He's going to declare, he wants to get really close because a shotgun is a +4 at close range, and close range being 10 centimeters. So he's going to declare that he's going to move, shoot, and then move again. So move, shoot, and move again. So he moves once. Now when you shoot, you take a -1 if you move 2 or more times to your shooting. It doesn't matter that I'm shooting after only moving once. Net for the whole turn, he's going to move twice. So I put out a 2 foot here, 2 foot move marker. He's well within 10 centimeters of shooting this guy here. He still has a move left after this. But the modifiers are he's moved twice, so that's a -1 to shooting. The target has also moved once, which is a -2. However, he's a +4 for his shotgun because he's within close range. So net, he's +2 on a dice. So he's going to roll the d20. He rolls a 20. +2 is a 22. Anything that's 19 or above is an instant kill. He blows him right out of his socks and he's removed from play. Now, because there's only 2 models, when you take half models, this side would actually take a big nerve test to see if they stick around or not. But we're going to continue playing here. So he still has a move left. He's quite happy about blowing him out of his socks. He's going to use the last 10 centimeters to get some cover from this guy over here that has a repeating rifle. And he takes his 2 steps with him. Now lastly, we have the one guy with a pistol over here who has a hit on him, or an under fire marker on him. So I'm going to remove his card here. He's going to declare that he's going to recover, move, and then shoot. So I'll get the dice out of the way here. So the recover allows him to remove his under fire marker, and then he gets to move and shoot. Now he wants to come running down here and try and get a shot off at the guy with the rifle. So he's going to be brave and come running right into the fray here. And so he gets over here, and I've stuck my marker in here. So he's moved. He's going to take a shot here. And he's just outside of 10 centimeters. And so it's just going to be a straight up roll. Although he's moved once, so that's a -1. So net -1. He just gets around, so he's out in the open here. So -1, rolls the dice. 13 -1 is a 12, which would put an under fire marker on the Desperado here. And at this point, all models have taken their 3 actions. We would remove all of the movement markers, since those are only temporary for the turn. You keep the under fire markers unless somebody recovers like he did earlier, and that's the game turn. You'd start off again by determining initiative and doling out more cards and playing special cards from your hand. So that's a basic walkthrough of a game turn using a couple of models from each side. Let's move on to the actual games as we get into the more Dead Man's Hand here.